Hi, my name's Andrew and thanks for clicking through to watch this video. This is the first proper video on my channel which is going to follow me around my two favourite areas, the North York Moors and the Yorkshire coast. Today I'm on the coast near Filey, studying what was once known as the Butlins Triangle. Through the video I'm going to show you what this place used to look like, what the resort used to look like and what's left of the Filey Holiday Camp railway station. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button, and if you've got any memories of Butlins Filey, do share them in the comments below. And if you want to see more of my videos around the North York Moors and the Yorkshire coast, hit that subscribe button. So the idea for the video came about while I was doing a bit of research for another video I'm planning. I've lived on the coast for over 6 years now, and I've driven down the road that runs parallel to here so many times, the one that takes you from Scarborough down to Bridlington. And I never knew about the old Butlins site, I never knew about the railway line that was built to serve it, so I just thought I'd get out and see what's still here. As I'm walking away from the Yorkshire coastline, which runs from Scarborough down to Hull, you can see from above where the two lines joined up ahead and ran into the 4 platforms that made up the Filey Holiday Camp station. On my left is the North Curve, where it ran up to Filey and onto Scarborough. And on my right, it ran south towards Bridlington and continued all the way down to Hull. And that's where the Butlins Triangle name comes from. So apparently just up the coast in Scarborough, when the big trains would come up from around the country, from London, the famous ones of the time, would generate a lot of interest. But the turntable up at Scarborough wasn't big enough for those trains to be turned around to go back down south. So what they would do is they'd bring the train out here, use this triangle to turn the train around, and then it'd go back up to Scarborough to pick people up. And apparently what the locals used to do was come here and just take photos and watch the trains going past. So while I'm walking towards the station, a bit of background on the Butlins Filey Holiday Camp. From what I've read, the holiday camp itself opened up in 1946 and the station was opened the year after. And it was all masterminded by a guy called Billy Butlin. There were other Butlins opened up around the country, and I think this was the second largest after the Skegness one. I've now walked across the field inside the triangle. I'm just going to head up onto what was the South Curve and then onto where the two lines met. I'm sure coming down this will have been easier than where it's going to be going back up. The Butlins cliché was a week's holiday for a week's pay, and that included the price of the railway ticket. That was something negotiated by Billy Butlin and the railways. For the most part, this place was a success. Figures I've read say there were anywhere between like 70 and 80,000 people initially coming here, and then by the mid-70s there was 170, 180,000 people per year holidaying here, and during the summer holidays at the peak that was like 10, 11,000 a week. Even though huge numbers of people were coming here, fewer and fewer people were using the railway. More people were getting cars, coach trips becoming more popular, and the station itself actually closed down in 1977, so it only actually saw about 30 years of use. I'm now approaching where the two lines met. You can see just off to my left where the North Curve goes through, then off up into Scarborough. And then we continue just off to the right, that's where the bridge takes us across the road, which then went on into the station. I've now crossed the road and I'm on the platform. There was just fields in between the road and the platform, so there wasn't really much to show. I know there were sidings, signal box, water tower here before. I'm sure you can find maps online with the layout, but there's nothing, or well, at least what I could see, there was no sight of it today. So I'm now on platform 3. As you know, there was 4 platforms across here. Not a lot to see, to be fair. As you can see, nature's taken over. A pretty sad sight now, to be honest with you. The structure of lampposts along the platforms, there's a few sporadically still showing, but not much, to be fair. So I'll just take the camera around and try and show you what is remaining of the place. So I'm stood at the end of the platform now in what feels like a basin. This is where the station terminus will have been. Terminus? This is where the holiday goers would have met the Butlins staff, the redcoats, as they got off the train. And even though it's in this state now, you can still imagine when you stood here, the excitement of the kids as they got off the train, the families as they got off that long journey for the 1 week away of the year. And what Butlins did, they put a road train on here, so everyone would pile off the main train, get on a road train, and that would take them through a subway under the main road and into the camp. I realise that last little section I've just shot is probably going to cut quite depressing in terms of how it looks now. So I think now would be a good point to drop in some shots of how it used to look and why people used to come here.
It all bright coloured chalets, and everything was so bright, and the flower beds and lights. And this is what people wanted to see, you see, after the war, of all the greys and khakis. And it just gave them an uplift, and the fountains were flowing, and, you know, all blues and reds. And this is what people wanted to see, and it made them sort of, just for that day or that week, they were in a fairyland.
Hope you enjoyed that. There are loads more videos on YouTube that you can watch after this video, and I'll link to them down below. Thanks for sticking with us this far, by the way. So I wanted to cover this story about the one accident that happened here in 1956. The story goes that an empty train left Bridlington on its way up here, and basically it set off without the brake pipe between the train and the loco being connected. The train left the coastline on the south curve and headed towards the station, but at the same point there was another train coming from the north. At this point, a guy called Harry Metcalfe in the signal box here was notified there was a runaway train, so he quickly had to stop the train coming from the north, and he set the lines to give the train a straight run down into this platform 3 where I'm stood. While he was doing that, he then managed to contact the station staff, who quickly moved some passengers from this platform. The driver and the fireman managed to bail out of the train before it crashed right here. All 3 of the crew were blamed in the official investigation: the driver, the fireman and the guard. Fortunately, the people on the platform at the time had managed to get clear, and there were only 3 reported injuries. Probably imagine they were the crew. And Harry in the signal box actually got a commendation for his actions that day. So I'm now heading towards where the road train would have taken guests into Butlins through the subway. There were all sorts of things dumped in this subway when it was closed down. I'll be surprised if I can see anything today, but I'll try and get the camera in to see if I can see anything. I bet there are so many people who regularly drive down this road who have no idea this tunnel even exists. I know when I was looking into this, there was photos from about 10-15 years ago where somebody had actually been in, but obviously since then it's all been filled in up against where the entrance was. So there's no chance of me getting in there today, unfortunately. With it being so dark, I can't quite see how much the camera is picking up, but it's flooded really high there, and there's only probably a couple of feet or so till it hits the water. If you bear in mind, back in the day, they had the road train going under there, they had other vehicles, people used to walk under there. So you can imagine how high that water actually is now. By all accounts, the closure of Butlins Filey came as a bit of a shock, happened quite suddenly, and that happened at the end of the season in 1983, so just 6 years after the station was closed. It then stood empty for a while before a few people, on several occasions, tried to kind of resurrect it and bring it back, but it never quite happened. There's actually probably a video in that at some point, but we'll leave that alone for now.
About 60 permanent staff are losing their jobs, and around 1,000 seasonal workers won't be spending their summers in Filey anymore. But as for the economy of the town itself, no one's quite sure how great the impact is likely to be.
The figures were conclusive. Filey, the bookings at Filey had been dropping quite dramatically over the last 3 or 4 years. The season, we found it almost impossible to extend the season. And it was really just figures. We didn't pluck Filey out of the air, so to speak. I mean, it was very, very clear whichever way one allocated costs and looked at booking trends, looked to the future, Filey just wasn't standing up on its viability.
I can honestly say that when I came back from 3 weeks holiday on the 13th of October, rumours started, which was the very first I'd heard. Before I went on holiday, we were planning the winter. I had no idea. I think everybody is very sad, even if they get another job, within or without the organisation. I think they'll all be very sad in May next year.
I've now crossed over the road and I'm still outside the old site. It's now been split into 2 resorts, one being at Primrose Valley, the other one being the Bay Filey. From what I've been able to see on Google Maps, there is still a lake just over my shoulder here behind the buildings. So I'm going to take the drone up, see what we can see, and particularly for you guys who used to maybe come here on holiday or used to work here, have memories of the place, of how it used to be, and we'll have a look at how it is today. So I decided to end the video back here. It just felt a bit cut off over there in terms of why I made this video. So just come back where there is a bit of a small footprint still of Butlins Filey. I'll add some links below to videos that other people have uploaded of the old Butlins Filey so you can see more archive footage. And if you fancy a holiday at the Primrose Valley or the Bay Filey now, I'll also put links in to both of those as well. Drop your comments in below, and if you have enjoyed the video, do like it. It will help my channel going forward. And if you want to see more of my videos around the North York Moors and Yorkshire coast, hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you'll be notified each time I upload a new video. I'm now off for my post-lockdown haircut. A massive thank you for watching the video, and hopefully I'll see you again soon for the next one. Right, what time's this train due?